What's happening, guys? I'm Curtis, and you're watching Left Foot First. Alright, at the end of last episode, we had just finished tacking up this, this rear bulkhead structure. Since then, I've fully welded all the joints. So now this is ready to start building our rear chassis off of to hang our fuel cell. It's also ready to start mounting our rear suspension components on. Which is good because I have it on fairly good authority that those axle brackets that we drew up like 2 or 3 weeks ago, those should be cut by next week. So hopefully next episode, we're gonna be actually mounting that rear axle in here and mounting those brackets onto the axle and getting everything kind of solidified up back here. So in preparation for that, we need to get that rear axle ready. There still needs to be some trimming done on it. I still need to weld up that hole that we made in it and then clean it up. It's all rusty and gross looking. So actually, let's walk over to the axle and I'll show you what I want to do. All right, so this is the axle as we've been kind of playing with it for the last couple episodes. You know, we shortened it in episode 1, but we didn't do a very good job of really cleaning it up. There's still grease on here from when it was in the Explorer and everything. You know, we pulled out the vehicle speed sensor, so now there's just a hole there. So that hole's just been filling up the guts of this thing with grease and grinding dust and all kinds of crap. So this episode, I really want to take and clean this thing up so that next episode we can weld those brackets on and they go on nicer. So I think we're gonna do it outside because I don't want to make a mess inside. Let's drag this outside and then we'll start kind of wire brushing off all the rust and prepping this area here for us to weld a little patch on top of that hole. And then we'll probably give it a coat of spray paint a little bit later. But let's drag it outside and get it cleaned up. All right, I think next step is let's do any trimming that we have to do and then prep that face so that we can weld a plug on top of that hole. Alright guys, it's way too hot to be working outside. I got the rear end all cleaned up. There it is. It's okay clean. It's not perfect, but I cut off the pieces that we marked out last week when we were building that rear bulkhead. So I cut off the pieces that were interfering still, and then gave everything a good little grind down. Wire brushed a bunch of stuff off. And then I also made that little loonie of metal. So that little plug will get welded in right there and cover up that hole. You may have also seen me, I took the power drill with a Christmas tree bit on it and just kind of hogged out that hole. That made sure that it was perfectly round, and it also got rid of any scale or oil buildup around the edge. So I got fresh virgin metal there. So when we go to weld it together tomorrow, maybe the next day, we'll have good steel there. So I'm gonna call it quits for tonight. I'm just sweating and dying out here, but we'll see you guys tomorrow. All right, the time has come. We gotta weld on that axle. I'm gonna set up the welder here with the bigger electrodes in it, and then I actually have some test pieces that we, the couple of chunks that we cut off of the center chunk. And I'm gonna try practicing a couple times just to see if I can figure out. I'm super nervous about this. I've never welded cast in my life, so I wanna make sure I get this right. So we're gonna take a couple practice runs at it. All right, that actually turned out better than I thought it would. It welded really smoothly. So now it's crunch time. We gotta do it for real. Alright, that welded up really nicely actually. You might have seen me, I grabbed a hammer and kind of peened the welds right after. Some guys say to do it, some guys don't mention it, whatever. It's just to prevent cracking, right? Because this cast steel has a tendency to crack when you heat it up like that. So apparently that helps. I don't know, I'm first timer, right? But no, it went really well. The next thing we're gonna try is we're actually gonna weld these tubes solid to the axle housing. From Ford, they just push the tube in and then put 3 little plug welds around it. And some of the hot rod guys that run these say that, you know, once you start pushing big power through them, they can kind of turn the tubes within the housing and cause issues. I don't think it's gonna be an issue for the power that we're running, but the axle's up here. We might as well give it a whirl, and if nothing else, it's good practice. So we'll come in here and we'll tack it in 4 spots, and then we'll weld it in quadrants just to keep the heat distortion down. I learned all this stuff from a guy called Justin on the Fabricator Series. He did a really good episode about doing exactly what we're doing now, cutting these things, shortening them, and welding the tubes and everything. So I'll throw a link to his video in the description. If you're doing this at home, go check his out because he's done it like 14 times. I've done it, well, I guess half of 1 time now. So yeah, we're gonna keep plugging away and see what it looks like. Well, they're not the prettiest welds I've ever done, but they're pretty good, and considering that was my first time ever welding cast steel, I'm pretty proud of them. Alright guys, that's what I'm going to call it for this week. We got the hole plugged on the top of the diff, we got the tubes welded in, we got a bunch of the diff all cleaned up yesterday, so it's looking good. It looks like it's probably ready for those suspension brackets. But those won't be here till next week. So in the meantime, I think I'll probably degrease the inside a little bit, and then throw the diff back in it and throw the axles back in it and everything, and get it all ready for when we do have those suspension brackets. But for now, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next week.